Well, I have a bone to pick with the creators of Severance since they are making me to relive the high school trauma of every girl's response after I ask them out on a date. Now, the new episode of Severance, titled Trojan Horse, finds our heroes in a very difficult situation when lies become the new norm for absolutely everybody.
Irving B's Audi has departed on an elongated cruise voyage.
Whatever you say, Mr. Milchik. Praise cure.
I'm afraid you don't mean it.
And I guess it's time to start worrying about Mark, since the creators of the show implemented the universal cinematic language of "this character is very sick and about to die." Anyway, in this video we will try to answer who is this mysterious doctor that is about to clean some teeth and probably some brain. Who is really the Trojan Horse after whom this episode is named? Cause it's definitely not Ricken's new book. What a sellout, by the way. Still, I am curious, what are Ben Stiller's plans for this character?
Well, that's the thing, because Ricken is not a joke. There's some real something there that we can hold on to.
Meanwhile, both your Audi and your Ini can feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel, since my
work is mysterious and important.
The work is mysterious and important.
And I prepared a lot of interesting facts and observations for you, so
Might be nice if you come over. We could sit down, talk through it all.
hello everyone and welcome to Geekonomy channel. I'm your detective host Igor, and today we are deep diving into Severance episode 5 season 2. We're halfway through and this episode kinda made me have some mixed feelings. Yes, there were some interesting moments. Yes, as usual, there's a lot of interesting information, but some of the moments were making me kinda upset, maybe even a little bit angry, but we'll get to that. Before we begin, as usual, I want to thank everyone who supports me on Patreon and on YouTube. Your financial support and your help is what make this channel possible. This is not just words, this is the truth. Your trust in me, this is what makes me be as motivated as possible, and I also feel some sort of obligation. I don't want you to be disappointed in me, especially when you put so much trust in my abilities to present to you the best possible videos. So hopefully this one is also gonna be very interesting. Now let's start, and I want to start actually with the doctor scene. So he is actually singing, or actually whistling, the wreck of Edmund Fitzgerald. Now basically this is a ship that was somewhere in the 1975, I think it was drowned because of some kind of a storm, and there are some conspiracy theories about it because none of the 29 people from the crew were actually found. But I read about this in the Wikipedia and I read about it somewhere in Google, and most of the things are actually pretty explainable. It took a lot of time to find the wreckage, it took a lot of time to actually send their people or drones to check them out, like what is actually went on with the ship. So there was a lot of time for the bodies just to disappear or maybe be trapped somewhere inside of the ship, just like it still is with the Titanic. So I don't think it's some kind of a conspiracy. I don't think there is some kind of a meaning for this, like not deep meaning about why is he whistling, especially, you know, this song. Probably the actor was told by the director, just whistle something, make yourself look like this is your daily job, this is your routine job. Because if we try to dissect the scene, especially with the ominous music there, it is supposed to be scary, okay? It's supposed to be dangerous. And this is kind of a maybe even a cliche scene when you show somebody who is very dangerous, who is very ruthless or something like this, and you show them doing something very mundane, very routine-like. So yeah, it kind of makes this character even more menacing.
And he goes, so I'm gonna execute a woman, but I'm not gonna be alone. I put Ray in the scene with me, and I do the thing, and I shoot her in the back of the head. But if you leave the camera rolling, after she falls, I turn to Ray and I say, geez, she felt funny. Now that's a really sinister thing to say, because it means I do this a lot and there's a way people fall.
So yeah, probably this is what happened here. I'm not going to deep dive into this song right now. Maybe if I'm gonna find some more information about the whole Fitzgerald event and it will be somehow connected to the story of Severance, maybe then I'm gonna do a separate deep dive. Meanwhile, as I told you, look at our O&D girls. This one, you remember her from season 1, obviously, you know, she was there to ask just a couple of questions. She has like a beat part, this is like not an extra. She's not just standing there, she just have just a couple of lines, and I'm happy to see her once again in season 2. But if you're gonna check this moment again, you will see so much fear and tension in her body language. She's obviously very scared of this guy who is coming to take those instruments. Now, if you're gonna look at him, and especially at his shirt, you have those like big pockets, big white pockets, and even right before it was subtitled that this guy is a doctor, I already kind of guessed that he is a doctor because he's dressed like one. And in this moment we can see once again the difference between the colors, the contrast here between the blue and the red. It's not a very new topic, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on it, but you know the contrast. The red symbolizes the innies, the outies, and the blue symbolizes the innies. So once again, they really love the contrast between those two colors. Now, in this moment we can actually get a confirmation that this guy is a doctor and he is asking for some tools. Now, if you're gonna look at the tools, you remember in season 1, this girl, by the way, they were printing a lot of different things with some kind of a 3D, very interesting 3D printers, big ones. I'm not a very big expert in 3D printers, but it looks like not a usual one. Maybe I'm mistaken here. Anyway, they are creating a lot of different tools, and I don't know how to explain them, especially in the intro. We have seen the mug that was going to be used in the funeral with Irving's face on it. There were a lot of musical instruments coming out of this mug, and they all looked as white as this thingy that she's holding right now. So maybe they also prepared those instruments. Now, my first impression, basically, that this guy is a dentist. Okay, you remember even in season 1, we had like a wall of shining teeth, everybody's smiling, and oh my god, how happy is everybody who is working at LUMON. Irving was finding this as a motivation because he is making people happy since 1866. I don't know if it sounds good, probably not so much, because it also can be used as a slogan for, for brothels. But anyway, this is already my mind fucked up brain. But still, I couldn't find any connection to our main story. I mean, how is it connected to the thief? Maybe, since we know that they faked Gemma's death, and usually bodies are being identified by teeth when they are unrecognizable, maybe they have like a dentist on a roll that's basically faking people's teeth, so they will be able to take them inside of LUMON and then do with them some kind of weird experiments. But then I also started to check those instruments, and they all look a lot like a dentist, but they also are instruments that are usually being used by neurosurgeons. And everything that happens with neurosurgery, neurobiology is very much related to Severance, especially, with the chip and everything else. If we're going to go to surgicalholdings.co.uk, you will see that there is something that is called elevators and something that's called probes, and this is basically the same instruments that we're seeing in this scene. Now, I'm not saying that I'm 100% sure that this is a neurosurgeon and this is his tools. It just makes a little more sense to me than him being a dentist. But once again, this show can be very surprising, and there's a lot of twists that you absolutely don't see them coming, so he can be a dentist. So there is some kind of explanation. As I told you, maybe they're faking people deaf like that, maybe they're faking some of the bodies, some of the teeth, some of the dental seizures, whatever it is, so they will be able to pull off the stunts like they did with Gemma. Anyway, getting back to our story, and of course you have noticed that they really try to hide the face of this doctor. So it could be a couple of possibilities. Maybe it's some kind of a famous actor, and then you have, the cameo effect on, oh my god, I know this guy. Or maybe it's something different. Maybe it's somebody who we have already seen in the TV show, and that's gonna be a big twist. Like this is, I don't know, Ricken's brother, some kind of whatever, something. But as far as I can see, I haven't been able to recognize the actor, obviously, but in this moment, especially when he's like, licking his lips or something, you can see some face features, okay, some facial features there, and it doesn't look like somebody we have seen in the TV show, like none of them. Maybe the guy that Bert is married to in real life, but once again, it's a big stretch, and I don't think it's a big twist for us. Most of us will not recognize him. I mean, most of the casual viewers are not going to be able to recognize him as Bert's husband outside. We have seen him just once. So probably it's not someone who is familiar to us, and the reason why they are hiding his face, maybe because he's gonna appear in future episodes without us realizing that he is the same doctor that is doing, I don't know, dental medical work or neurosurgeon medical work there in the lowest floors with Gemma and the others. So we are moving to this moment, and we can see that He is probably unsevered because he has the black card, so it means he's one of the administration. The black card also Miss Hong has a black card, and we know that Mr. Milchik has a black card. This is, the all access card that basically can take you to all of the floors and all of the rooms, as far as we know, because once again, everything can be happening in this TV show, everything can be a twist in this TV show. So we move into this moment. This is a moment from the trailer. Thank you so much. By the way, it's been only half a season, and I think 99% of the moments that have been shown to us in the trailers are already something that we have seen, so it's actually good. It means that in the rest 5 episodes, we're gonna see something that we completely don't expect, especially if we have seen the trailers. Now, another interesting thing, it's kind of a similar theme in many scenes already. There are a lot of mirrors on the ceiling, like in this scene, like in many other scenes in LUMON Industries. So maybe this is some kind of a subtle hint, about being innie and outie, and about seeing your actually like your twin brother, your fake dealer or something like this. I don't know. Once again, maybe I'm putting too much information and too much sense to a moment which is not actually has any sense, but once again, I notice, I share. So we are moving to the next theme, and this is a fallout of the whole 4th episode. And this is the moment when I actually started to be a little bit upset, because Milchik here is explaining about the Glasgow block, and everything in this episode suggests that everything that happened in episode 4 was actually for real. And the reason why I'm upset about this is it's either gonna be somehow disproved in the next episodes, hopefully, and there are gonna be some signs that maybe it was still a simulation, or the creators really disregard a lot of the details and a lot of the hints and clues. I mean, like I did the video about Heli R and Helena, and we analyzed all of the clues, and we came to the conclusion that it's definitely Helena, and then in episode 4 it was confirmed that it was Helena. Obviously I was not alone in this, a lot of bloggers, a lot of YouTubers was talking about this, but once again, when we analyzed whether this simulation or real world, there was so many clues that this is actually not a real world, especially, the reappearing, disappearing from thin air to thin air TV set that works from batteries, apparently. I mean, after all that, and the Milchik saying about they're going to the same cave in the mind of Eagan. I'm not gonna repeat it. If you haven't seen the video, you're more than welcome to check this out, but there are so many clues that you can't completely disregard, or I don't know, brush them off as some kind of a artistical choice or something like this. And it really bugs me, because right now when I analyze this TV show, I don't know which clues are actually clues, that they have some kind of a meaning and some kind of a weight, or some clues, as I call them right now, is the magical TV clues. Basically they're for you not to notice. Hopefully you're not gonna notice them because they don't make any sense. Anyway, moving forward, once again, there's a conversation about the Audis, and he's been stopped for some reason. He's not telling us what exactly Glasgow block does, just like in episode 4 in the end when Milchik was telling them to, remove the Glasgow block. But why would you need a block if they are on the outside? You want to tell me every time they leave LUMON, they're actually implementing the Glasgow block procedure? Because I thought it's just a Severance chip. You go outside in the elevator switches you off, and you become your Audi again. But apparently, you're not, because when you go outside to, some snowy lake, some icy lake there, apparently you need a Glasgow block for some reason. It feels unlogical, unnatural, I don't know what it is. It's either some kind of a mistake from the creators, or maybe there's some new information that is waiting for us in the future episodes. Hopefully. And of course, as usual, Milchik lies. I think it's almost natural to him already, and he's like, yeah, he's on the cruise and he's so happy because whatever. And if you have listened to the podcast of Ben Stiller and Adam Scott, they basically explained that in this moment, the Innies are already not listening to Milchik. Whatever he's gonna say to them, it's gonna be considered as a lie. If he's gonna tell them that 2 + 2 = 4, they're probably gonna put 5 instead, because they're not trusting him anymore, especially after this heinous, absolutely horrible lie that they experienced in previous episode. And once again, a very interesting moment that I kind of start to notice from episode to episode. There is a lot of distinction between the Innies and the Outies, especially in this moment when Dylan is saying that he doesn't give a flying fuck about Irving's Audi. It kind of feels a little bit different. There is a lot of change. I mean, They are being told in the wellness sessions about their Audi's ability to pay the bills in time, and it makes them super happy because this is the only way for them to connect to this outside world. And right now they basically feel betrayed, and they basically feel like they're supposed to unite under one banner. I still think we're gonna see some sort of a rebellion of all of the Enis in this, I don't know, in this LUMON Industries, or maybe in this Severance floor, maybe this season, maybe in the next one, but it feels like it's starting to boil from every character that we see. Now, we have the Grakapan story, and this is obviously about, you know, the Swedish king of some sort. Let's see him like here. According to Swedish legend, Charles the 11th traveled around the country dressed as a farmer or simple traveler. In the legend, he is referred to as the Grey-Coat Swedish Grakapan. This was done to discover and identify corruption and oppression against the populace. So once again, Milchik is trying to use, apparently right now, for a change, he's using a real story instead of just lying through his teeth, but it's still a little bit different because he's telling that basically Heli or Helena did the same as this king because she wanted to listen to the Inis. And as I told you, Inis are not buying this bullshit anymore. They're basically looking at Milchik, and this is just a lying machine to them. Now, what's interesting for me here in this moment that he's saying that here Eagan himself was actually doing something like this in his ether factories. And if you remember this painting when he met his wife Imogen, I was always curious about this, like what is he doing there? Why is he working like one of the simple workers? He was the owner of the whole factory. So yeah, maybe it was, you know, like, you know, be the leader, actually work there with everybody instead of being the boss. But it, you know, Kier Eagan doesn't strike me like somebody like this. And right now, if he actually did this, and if it's not another lie made by Milchik, maybe this is one of those moments when he was, you know, undercover, going to the ether mill just to work, to listen to the workers, to see who is upset and about what. Now, as I told you in the beginning of this video, I kind of think that maybe something else or someone else is an actual Trojan Horse in this episode, and it's definitely not Rickon's new book, because Rickon's new book is even worse than his original book, and his original book is amazing for Severance fans because if you're gonna read it, you're gonna love it and you're gonna laugh a lot. But if you consider it as a real book, it's an absolutely horrible book. But what I like about this moment is when, you know, Milchik is answering to Dylan and he's saying to him that Irving is not coming back, you can see honestly him being sad. Okay, Milchik is usually, when he's faking, his eyes don't change. Here in this moment, he's lowering his gaze because he is upset. And if you remember, when he was firing them in episode 2, he was just, you know, completely casual and normal with Dylan, and he was like, "You're fired, bitch." And when he was talking to Irving, he was like really upset and he was trying to cheer him up. And also when he was talking to Mark in season 1, he was telling him that him and Petey, his best and favorite friendship in the office. So he is involved. It's not like they all not people for him, just like for the rest of the employees and the management here in Severance, in the Severance floor. So I think that Milchik is the real Trojan horse, but he himself still doesn't know it yet. He's starting just to get there. He's getting the first motivational signs to get there, to this moment. Especially like here when he's trying to talk to Natalie and he's looking for a friend, he's looking for an ally. He doesn't have one anymore. He used to have Miss Selvig there in the floor. They've been like, you know, sharing secrets, you know, even hiding something from the board and the rest of the management of LUMON. And right now he's all by himself. Miss Huang is there spying on him. Everybody on the MDR hate his guts, and he's completely by himself. And in this moment when he's trying to confide to Natalie, she's like, Mr. Drummer is waiting, basically telling him, no, dude, I'm not gonna talk about this, and you should never talk about this. And I can understand why he thought that she can be an ally. She gave him a lot of signals in episode 3. She was looking at him like, telling him, dude, I know what you're going through right now. This is a shit deal, but you have to power through if you want, you know, like, climb on the career stairs here or something like this. And at this moment, she's completely like, no, man, you have to cut it off. So the whole performance review of Mr. Seth Milchik was completely ridiculous, and it's so corporate, And it kind of reminds me of the days in the office when they're like trying to print everything and everything has to be a PowerPoint presentation. And right now they also like put in the 9 virtues of Kir Eagan. You have the wills, the probity, the nimbleness, whatever it is, like it's there because it has to be there. And you can see that Mr. Drummond, he's basically engaged in the conversation. He's not reading like a robot, but he's actually just reading from this book. He's barely adding anything from himself. So once again, it's very corporate, it's very soulless. And it's actually kind of funny because in this moment when he is like saying to Milchik it's gonna take between 4 and 6 hours, if it's gonna be longer than 4 hours, you're gonna have to order something from the menu, and Milchik is like, no, I hope it's not gonna be that long. He's like, yeah, here's the menu. So he knows already how long it's gonna be. They know already everything. There is no room for freedom here, no room for wiggling, nothing, okay? So this is what's gonna happen today. And the paperclip situation, it's just fun. It's just making fun of the corporate world. And once again, if you have ever worked in the office or you have seen the show Office, you know exactly what's going on here. And this is stupid shit like that when you have to just implement just a little bit of free thinking, just a little bit out of the box thinking, but unfortunately many managers don't really know how to do this. So yeah, just funny moment. And as of course the team building occurrence, look, I know that so far there is still not 100% confirmation that they were actually outside. There is some kind of explanation that you can stretch here and say that maybe they were somewhere inside of LUMON building, maybe it was some kind of an augmented reality situation, whatever. But you know, after Mark is gonna tell here that he was, you know, during the whole weekend he was there. By the way, hard for me to believe that somebody would agree to something like that, but okay, you know, the TV show said they agreed, we're gonna accept it. But then he is saying like, my innie fell off a rope apparently, and he just got a little bit wet. Now, my biggest problem with this is, once again, how do we put this on the chronological scale? How do we explain the whole blank spot between them, all of the innies, standing around Heli R, waking up from her dream, a very, very long dream. Irving B is being deactivated there to never be activated again, and he's been switched to his Audi probably at this moment. What happens next? From this moment and until the moment they are all at home, what happened there? I mean, my whole suspension of disbelief and my whole fantasy cannot fill the blank, because what is going on? So let's say they're all switched off to their Audi right now in this situation with Irving B. All of them are standing in the middle of the river. There is a soaked, droning lady there in their arms that they're not supposed to know. They're not supposed to see each other. And they're like, oh, okay, let's go home. Or maybe they were all went, you know, back home as their innies. They went back to maybe to LUMON Industries, and then they were switched off to their Audis again. But then again, could you not give this poor guy some towel maybe? Without inventing some stories that he, you know, just got a little wet because his rope was cut or some bullshit like this. If you already taken them back home before you switch them back to their Audis, just give the guy a freaking towel, and you're gonna solve a lot of problems for yourself and a lot of unnecessary questions. I mean, there's something here that's not working for me. Hopefully you'll be able to correct me in the comments, because I really want to believe that everything here in this TV show is thought through, every little detail, and there is absolutely no room for mistakes. But you know, this moment kind of made me feel a little bit less about the previous episode, which in my opinion was one of the best until today's episode, which made it less impactful for me. It kind of feels like just less. And I'm sorry to say this, I usually like really going crazy here in this review session, and I'm absolutely amazed by every episode, and I want to be amazed. But if something that kind of bugs me, I also have to be honest with you about this, even if it's gonna make you a little bit mad about me. Anyway, we move into this moment, and we kind of have more and more moments of, you know, the difference between the innies and outies, and the whole outlook of LUMON administrative branch, that the innies are basically not people, not human.
I am a person. You are not.
We have seen Helena saying that they are animals and something like this. We're gonna get to this moment, and here he is saying you have to treat them is what they really are. Stop treating them like they're employees at Google and give them like good feedback and make them be friends or some shit like this. You have to tighten the leash. They are slaves. They are literally slaves, and this is how you have to treat them. So in the principal achievements and failures of Seth Milchik, we have the short-lived new refining team, the one he brought with Mark W, the Italian guy, with the Gwendolyn girl. We have the ineffective kindness reforms, everything that he tried to do with the kindness, and we're listening to you, and here is a cartoon with Keanu Reeves' voice, didn't work. We have the Ordbo, obviously it didn't work. By the way, if you're gonna read this moment here, they actually were trying to lower their fear from the outside, and they wanted to make them bond. They don't really need to bond. They are already really bonded. They need to be swayed and actually, separated, just like he did with Dylan. The tactic that he used and implemented on Dylan was actually very effective, because as soon as Dylan was made to feel special and he was given some special perks, when Irving was asking for his help, Dylan was, telling him to go F himself in a very polite manner. And this is what you're supposed to do in this kind of a situation. You divide and conquer, not make them bond. Not a very good decision, obviously. I mean, it's good decision for us who are rooting for the Eddies, but it's not a very good management decision from Milchik in this situation. Now, there's also the theft of card 7197G. You obviously remember this card, you were seeing it in episode 6 in season 1, so once again, something they wanted to hide. The management knows everything. We still don't know what this card is about. We still have no idea. I have not even one theory about this. All of those cards kind of look confrontational, kind of look aggressive. It kind of looks like one of the guys choking another. I don't know. And it kind of looks like it's some sort of an instruction to kill somebody, maybe to choke somebody. I don't know, but we're probably gonna learn about this since they're put in here in the principal achievements and failures of Seth Milchik. So he's also using too many big words, and I kind of didn't put here 2+2, but once again, thanks to the podcast, they explained to us that this was Miss Huang actually who was telling on Milchik that he's using big words and he's ununderstandable and he's gonna use some smaller words today, and so he's taking some feedback into consideration. But despite his many and profound failings as probably a manager, the severed floor in recent weeks, Mr. Milchik probably was able to provide the same level of energy and maybe something on a consistent basis. A man of such vigor as Mr. Milchik makes for an excellent ballast on which two employees can anchor their days. This sort of rare in the ranks of maybe a good character or some shit like this in the ranks of middle management. We will encourage the continuance of this behavior, and it looks like it was written by the board. Obviously, Natalie is the mouth of the board. Maybe she's also, the pen and the keyboard of the board. Who knows? So the Ordbo, we read about this. And after the board chewed Mr. Milchik head, we are looking at Mark. He's starting to see some effects from reintegration. Both Innie and Audi starting to experiencing both of their personalities starting to merge, and they're seeing the same thing. So he's seen those pills that Mark was taking in the beginning of the episode, and he feels like a little bit out of the touch, out of focus. You can see it took him a while to switch off his computer, just like Helena did in episode 1. It took her a while to switch on the computer. And I still have this question of how Helena was able to refine the numbers. I was always under the assumption that, you have to be an Innie in order to feel those emotions when you look at the code. But even if you don't have to be an Innie, like Helena was instructed on the top floors how to actually do the job in order to infiltrate the severed floor and the MDR department. Maybe, but if you are training her to refine the numbers, can you give her a better story than the Night Gardener? Something that people will not suspect? I mean, nobody thought about this, that, like the biggest event in their life, this is something they're gonna ask about, Heli, by the way, what you have seen on the outside. Nobody on the LUMON Industries in the administration, when they were sending Helena there to be undercover, thought that this question may pop up. Okay, I guess it's too much to ask from them. Anyway, like we can see that Mark is completely in a very aggressive state. And I've seen some comments in my Telegram, like people are saying like he's been acting like an asshole. Haley told him that he's acting like an asshole with Irving and everything. But I can't understand this guy. I mean, I'm not trying completely to justify his behavior, but once again, think about what happened with Mark S., the Eni, from episode 1. He woke up in the middle of the LUMON Industries in the 7th floor by himself. All of his friends are retired. He fought through his teeth to bring them back. You remember the moment when Irving and Dylan arriving, and then he's standing like, come on, come on, come on, and then he sees Haley R coming from the elevator, the feeling of relief, the love, the hug, everything there is like, oh my god, it's a very cathartic feeling. I felt it by myself when I was watching this moment. I felt so happy for him. I put myself in his place and I thought, oh my god, this is probably an amazing moment for him. And then they had this romantic moment in episode 2 when they just look at each other and they were pretty shy if they're about to kiss each other, and they also together against the world. I mean, how romantic is that? Basically, his life starting to be filled with love and mystery and adventure, and he's starting to be completely alive. This is a different person. And then it reaches its culmination in episode 4 when they actually, make love. I mean, if you fall in love with somebody, usually you want this to happen, and when it happens, especially with, both of the people are in love in this situation, it's absolutely amazing, obviously. So yeah, he is on top of the world. He is the happiest person ever to live on the face of the planet. And then everything is being crushed, completely crushed to pieces in just 1 second. And he realizes that he is an absolute zero, nothing against the LUMON machine. They are always 75 steps ahead of him. They know everything, they follow everything, they can lie, they can hide everybody, they can show Haley R, and it's basically Helena. And right now, he doesn't know not who to trust. He doesn't know what to trust. He doesn't know what to expect more from LUMON. Maybe Dylan is gonna turn into some lizard right now and start to fly in the sky and shoot from his ass some lightning bolts at him. It can also happen in Mark's mind, because right now his whole world structure is completely ruined. And I don't know how you can expect from a guy in this situation be like, you know what, I've been lied to for a past month or so, that the woman that I love is actually, somebody else that I don't really know, and now she says that she's not that person anymore. Yeah, I'm gonna believe her right away. I mean, if I was at his place, I would probably be suspicious of everybody around me, and I probably also would be a little bit of an asshole to some people, even unjustifiably to them. And being an asshole to them is like being a shitty friend. But once again, when you're like in this psychological state, when you don't know who or what to trust at all, you feel you're being attacked from everywhere. And in this moment, we are seeing Mark, who is, there's nothing to lose for him anymore. He is just looking at Milchik and he's like, what, you have another bullshit gazette for me? You have another bullshit newspaper that's gonna tell me a story about how we are superheroes on the outside? I don't trust even one word from you. And Mr. Milchik, he took into consideration that he's supposed to stop using those smart words, and I was so happy about it, because as you can hear, English is obviously not my main language, and all the time I'm making those reviews, like half of the time I'm just going to the dictionary trying to understand what the hell is tumult. There's grief and tumult behind us. I don't know what is tumult, but luckily the next sentence is actually, did you tell her that you fucked her outie on the Ordbo? And this is something new. We have never seen or heard Milchik talk that way. Never, ever, ever. Not with the Enis, not with Selvig, not with everybody. So something is breaking inside of him. Now, it can take us to 2 different paths. One of the paths is basically he's becoming a psychoboss. He's like becoming a tyrant, and he is basically making everybody's life a complete living hell. Or, as I told you, maybe this breaking point, as we are being suggested many times already through the show, can start to turn him off the whole LUMON Eagan religion, because he starts to get offended because of the paintings. He's seen some different moments that we're gonna discuss today. So yeah, hopefully, I actually kinda hope, because this actor is amazing, I hope that he's gonna be on the side of the Inis at some point. So as I told you, let's discuss a little bit the scene with Helena has to come back as Heli R, and they're like talking about the father, like the only interesting piece of information that I'm getting here is that there are some different ruling structures in Lumen Industries. It's not like Jamie Eagan, whatever you want to call him, is like the god and the ruler of the place. You can see that sometimes employees are deciding to keep him in the dark. And maybe Mr. Hammond and Natalie are actually the ones who are deciding most of the things that happen in Lumen, even though father is father and he's like every time written here with capital letter. So a very interesting moment. Okay, this is once again, we need our tinfoil hats because Drummond is saying to her, the medical team says your tempers will rebalance quickly. So I don't know about you, and hopefully you will never gonna see the inside of the hospital, never ever holding fingers for you, but every time they usually take my blood pressure, they usually check my body temperature, but never they want to rebalance my tempers. And once again, it doesn't feel like something amorphic. It kind of feels like, you know, Helena, after this event of her being almost drowned, went to the medical department of Lumen. She was put some of the MRT or maybe some EEG devices on top of her head, and other people were like checking her tempers, and they were seeing that, I don't know, Melis is probably shooting straight through the roof because she's obviously very angry, especially in this moment when she's saying that they're fucking animals. By the way, once again, in the podcast, they're explaining it's not like she means it completely. It's already more like a defense mechanism. She's obviously very angry. She doesn't want to come back, but she doesn't see them like an animals because she had sex with the one, or she's a zoophile or something like this. But she's just angry, and she's like, you know, like trying to blow some steam. Yeah, so interesting, very interesting, because once again it allows us to look at the whole Lumen philosophy, and not only philosophy, how they are treating people. And they have already the ability maybe to stabilize your tempers. So let's say you're one of the management, you already went through the whole process of refining your personality and you tamed your tempers, and right now you're one happy Eagan potato, but something can happen to you and you can be disbalanced, and it is considered as a medical emergency for Lumen employees, and you can go to this room and they're gonna fix you up. But it will take, of course, time, just like integration, and reintegration takes time. So father approves, and once again she is losing faith in her father. Father is the one who's sending her there, once again, maybe to die, because Helena, when she sees a goal, she doesn't see any obstacles, and if the obstacle is supposed to be killed and she's supposed to kill herself, she's gonna do it. So obviously Helena is afraid, and this moment kind of made me think that maybe they by themselves have no clue what the hell they are doing in MDR. Because I can understand why Mark would shout out, you know, this work is mysterious and important, but why would Drummond say this to Helena, you know, with those very stupid slogans that's supposed to be manipulative towards Innis? I don't know, but it kind of makes me feel like they all been told that Cold Harbor is super important and it's gonna change the world or some shit like this, but it's not. Maybe it's something completely else, and it's completely stupid. And as I told you, we have different power structures. So we have, you know, we have Jamie Eagan, who is the CEO, and we have the board. So it looks like board is way more hands on the ground, and they are deciding what's gonna happen, and they're always taking care of everything. And Jamie Eagan is just appearing from time to time and saying some weird shit like Muppet Child or whatever he was saying to her in episode 2. So let's talk a little bit about the funeral, the whole, once again, the weird funeral by Lumen. And we see here that not only they're ready for Mark and Dylan to be dead, obviously to die somehow on the severed floor. I mean, they're not expecting it, but they're ready for this kind of an event. They also take into possibility that maybe Helena, can also die, and they're willing to take this risk. And once again, I start to understand Helena, why she's so desperate, why she's so depressed, because her own father can risk her life just to achieve some corporate goal. Yeah, kinda stupid. So we also learned a little bit of a new lore fact. We know they have some kind of affection index for Irving B. It was high in the 60s. I don't know what kind of a scale they're rating, like where is the top? Is it 100? Is it 65 or 63.5? With Lumen, you never know, because those guys are freaking weird. But the most interesting part for me here is, once again, look at Milchik's eyes. When Miss Huang is telling him you're not supposed to treat them like that, it makes them feel like they're people. You can see that Milchik is not really happy with this statement. It makes him angry. His eyes are telling everything. It's like, yes, they are people. He is fond of them. He was at least fond of Irving, and he was fond of Mark's and Petey's friendship. They are not just, dead bodies and slaves for him. And as I told you, I think, or at least I hope, this is something that's gonna sway Milchik towards the side of our Innis and against LUMON at some point. Now we have this cartoon, the weird pixelated cartoon with, once again, Irving for some very stupid reason dancing there on his funeral. And as usual, I cannot disregard every mention of Kir being a religious god. And it's like, when an Inni goes to be with Kir, I mean, once again, Kir is presented like a biblical god here. But the more interesting part here is, once again, is it some kind of inconsistency that was made deliberately? Or it's once again one of those magic televisions that just appear and we're supposed to disregard them. As you can see in this timeline, Irving B was working from quarter 870 to the quarter 882, which means he was alive for 3 years in this LUMON Industries. But if we take into consideration that, LUMON is being alive and kicking for 882 quarters, it means it is alive for 220 years and a half or something like this. Doesn't really matter. So if, as we're being told, Kir Eagan started his company in 8065, it means right now it's supposed to be 2080 something. But if it is actually the case and we're living in some kind of an alternative timeline where it is 2082, I guess Mark is 110 because we can see here on his driver license that he was born on 76 or 78 or something like this. Obviously not in 2040. So this is, by the way, not a first inconsistency with the timeline. You remember this moment with the dentist, by the way, with the teeth, where Irving was saying that LUMON Industries is making people smile since 8066, and we know that it started in 8065, and a guy like Irving, who knows everything, supposed to know when the company actually started because he's like a fanatic for, the LUMON and the Eagan, but also a guy like Irving would probably know that if he's been told to go to the cave where Kir Eagan tamed his tempers, he would probably remind Mr. Milchik that he listened to Kir Eagan's recording many times. And Kir Eagan tamed his tempers in the cave of his mind, so there's absolutely no way they can actually find this cave. But once again, maybe this is one of those magic televisions that just appear and disappear and we're supposed to disregard them. Also here, this is just a small tiny details. We can see some of the remains of their, the old break room. You remember the hand placements where you put your hands as when they are starting to ask you the questions and you're supposed to read the sentences in the break room. So you will be broken in the break room. So it is still there. They tried to rebuild it, but something is still there. I thought it's at least a little bit interesting. Now, the best part for me here is that I can see a very strong motivation from Dylan. He is saying that he failed his friend came for his help, and he was not there to provide it, and now his friend is dead. I mean, you cannot think of a stronger motivation than that. You can, but not too much, because, he will be able to give up on a lot of things to honor his friendship with Irving right now because he feels guilty. And it's a very strong and powerful motivator. So yeah, and this is the moment with the Black Beauty watermelon that it's coming from Malaysia. I don't know why it's important. Probably once again they're showing to us, like with the coffee from Rwanda, they're showing to us two things: that LUMON is everywhere, and also LUMON is, a little bit abusive, and he's taking advantage of a lot of different countries, and everything's supposed to be very special for the Innis. You cannot give them just a watermelon. It's supposed to be the black sugar, whatever, what is it called? Black Beauty watermelon from Malaysia, so they will feel special. Yeah, so a little bit about the files. Okay, let's talk about them today. We have the Yakima file. This is a new. We have the Allentown. If you remember, Mark had, his crystal, a cube in first season, and it also was titled Allentown, and it was given to him. It's not one of the perks. It's probably this moment, you remember Dylan was talking to Helena, he was telling her every 4 out of the files expire before they were able to finish them, and it's still better than it was before Mark's Flukes, beginner's Fluke or something like this.
What about Mark's crystal head cube?
That's not a prize, that's just something they gave him. On average, 1 in 5 files before they expire, which is better than it used to be before Mark's freshman Fluke.
So maybe Mark is actually have some kind of a tools, some kind of a special unique capabilities that allow him to, you know, refine those files better than everybody else. This is why he was chosen for Cold Harbor. I hope not. I hope it's going to be something more, you know, more personal, more emotional for the viewer. But still, Allentown is here, and it's obviously a finished file. And we have the Astoria, we have the Bellingham. This is a file he was working on season 1. Obviously, also a finished file. Now, there's also the Cairns, and there's also Chicxulub. By the way, this is just a location in Mexico where apparently some kind of a meteorite hit the ground and killed a lot of dinosaurs, basically, you know, the whole civilization. So once again, another location. Now, I try to analyze all of those locations together. Now, look, here we can see all of the files here as we have seen them before, and I put all of the names here. Now, the only one that is not a location is the Ocula. Here the Ocula, and once again this is completely breaking almost every theory why there's a file called Ocula, because everything else is somehow connected either to a location or to a history event in some sort of a location. Now, Cold Harbor, it's not a city, it's not a town, but a battle that happened at some, you know, location. It's called Cold Harbor. The Yakima is also a place where there was some kind of a battle, war. Ellington, Astoria, Bellingham, all of those places have some kind of a relations to history. Most of them somehow related to war history. And since Mark used to be a history professor and he specialized in World War I wonder if it's connected somehow. I still cannot explain what is Ocula doing there. But if we're looking, for example, at Minsk, there's a lot of battles there in World War II. But once again, it can also be one of those magical TV sets that just appear through thin air, and we're not supposed to really deep dive into them, because we also have Santa Mira here, which is a fictional location from a movie, you know, Body Snatchers. So once again, I don't know how seriously the creators are taking those connections, or they just spitball and okay, let's use Kingsport, let's use Labrador, whatever, what it's supposed to mean. Just something, you know, the name of the file, you just choose the file, it sounds nice, let's call it Pacoima, whatever. And we are here trying to break our heads and building theories and everything, but there's a very good chance that it's absolutely nothing, especially since we have Santa Mira here and some kind of a Ocula. I don't know if it's related to, you know, to eyes somehow, but once again, how it can be, you know, like it doesn't really connect between the eyes and the numbers. I'm just trying to find some connection here, but sometimes it just feels like I'm wasting my time, just like it was with episode 4 and the whole simulation theory. And we're gonna finish today with Mark's Audi. He's taking a lot of pills. Now, I don't want to analyze those pills. There can be a lot of different pills that looks the same, so whatever he's taking, probably some kind of antibiotics, maybe something that boosts his immune system, whatever this is, he is supposed to stay fit while he's going through this reintegration process. He's drinking something horrible that looks really not tasty, and once again, it's also probably some kind of a superfood shitty shit that makes him not die, because he's coughing, and this is a universal language in every cinema and TV show that this character is very sick and is about to die, or at least he's gonna be close to it. Now, what is interesting here? We have two different drawings here on his refrigerator, and they both related to Gemma. So let's analyze them. So the first image here is the Russian bear and the American deers, the B&W black and white film copy. So it's supposed to be, at least it's written in this website and in a couple of others that I checked, it's supposed to be taken from the Harper's Weekly, 1871, December 23rd, page 1216. You know, published in 1871, and it's a cartoon showing the Grand Duke Alexis as a bear surrounded by 5 women. I read about Grand Alexis. This was one of the sons of the Russian emperor at this period. He was supposed to be the leader of the navy fleet of Russia, and he was not good. He was called eventually like a guy of fast women and very slow ships. Russia's empire lost a lot of battles to Japan because he was against reforming the ships, and he was losing to more advanced, technologically advanced ships. Because of him, he was more of a playboy than actually a general. So what there is something that is connected here to, to maybe to the song that the doctor was whistling in the beginning. Also not like a shipwreck, like ship is going under. I don't know if it's somehow connected to our main story, but maybe there is a connection. But what is actually weird is when I started to look for actual Harper's Weekly 8071, I was actually finding this, and it showed me this image like saved from the wreck, Harper's Weekly, December 23rd, 1871. So I wanted to read the whole newspaper and I found it here, but I flipped through all of the pages and there is no image like that of Duke Alexander being portrayed as a bear with American deers. So I'm a little bit confused how it can be. And if you have any idea to help me out, because it's probably gonna bug me through all of the night and it's not gonna let me sleep. So if you have an idea, because this is Harper's Weekly, this is 8071, this is December 23rd, this is the issue 782. Maybe there are different issues on this date, like in one day you have a couple of issues, I don't know, but the image is not here. Anyway, even if I would find it, I have no idea what kind of information it would provide for me. But once again, I notice, I share. Now the other image is actually a novel by Lev Tolstoy, which is a very famous author in Russia. Obviously he's been studied, War and Peace, you probably heard about this. And of course Gemma, being a Russian literature professor, probably would know about him. But why is it translated to German? I have no idea. Maybe they were like looking for something interesting in different translations. Still, it's pretty weird and the whole story is very disturbing. I didn't read it, this is not my cup of tea, but I read the plot and it's about some girl that she's been raped by the hero of this story and she becomes a prostitute, and then like after a couple of years she's been on a trial because she has been considered as a murderer of some guy, of a client, and she's not, she's innocent, and the guy who is judging her is actually the guy who raped her a couple of years ago. So yeah, lovely story about very lovely people, and of course poor girl in this situation. But once again, how is it connected to our story? If you're seeing some parallels here, please let me know in the comments, because I don't. Now, what kind of also bugs me, if we remember season 1, Regabi was the one to tell Mark that she put his chip in his head. She was there to put the chip, so she was in the operation room, and of course he didn't recognize them because she was wearing the mask, the medical mask. Yeah, but still, I think I would have a lot of questions to her in this situation. Maybe you can explain it with Mark's obsession right now with Gemma, which is completely understandable after 2 years of thinking that your wife is dead. You have her ashes here in your basement, and then you're being told that she's actually alive. I mean, you probably wouldn't think about anything else, but I would be more suspicious of Regabi and her influence, how she influenced Story by Lumen. And as I told you, Mark is coughing, and how much you want to bet that at one of the episodes in this season, next episodes, he's gonna be coughing blood. This is always the same. They start to cough, at some point they're coughing blood, and the viewer knows that the shit is real and something bad is about to happen to our hero. And we can see that Helena is obsessed a little bit, because she felt probably some affection that she never felt, and this is once again a proof that she doesn't consider all of the Innies animals, okay, or she has a very weird thing about animals and she needs to be checked about this. And yeah, we go into this moment. Also, I was trying to use the similar image, the reverse image tools of Google. I wasn't able to find the same jewelry, so I think that, unlike in From, they actually made maybe specific jewelry just for Gemma. I don't know, wasn't able to zoom in order to understand what is really there. Maybe it's written something there, but it kind of feels old. It kind of feels maybe a little bit antiquish. So once again, if you have any idea what is that, please let me know. And yeah, she's gonna pressure some points about memories, which makes you think that maybe Miss Selvig's theories about her working against Lumen and trying to reintegrate Mark is actually true. Possibility here also, because she was using the candle that Gemma made in the wellness session. It feels very similar to what Regabi is doing here, trying to find some jewelry that belongs to Gemma to stimulate Mark's memory process. And just a small Easter egg, we have seen some Eagan, what is that? Eagan Emporium, a new store. And in this moment we were kind of thinking that maybe, you know, like Regabi was reintegrating more people after Pity, but it looks like she told Mark that she done it just once. So I don't know how she became way better, as she said it to him in the previous, in episode 3, but okay. So it's not really science, and by the way, I interviewed a guy who is like a neurobiologist. We watched some scenes together. I'm about to edit this video soon. It's a little bit, you know, it's not very entertaining, but there are some interesting thoughts there. But most of the input that he gave me is basically, it's really not related to science. I don't know why they're doing this, I don't know why they're choosing this, but the neurobiology is not really connected to what we are seeing here. Maybe just, you know, in some general ideas, but if you dive into the details, it doesn't really fit. So yeah, it's not really science. And then he starts to hear Miss Casey worse, and it's very interesting that he can parallel parking and he's pay his bills in time. But the really interesting thing is she's saying your Ari is going to, and usually she's saying like what is he's actually already doing and not what's going to happen to him in the future. And since it was cut off, it's probably some important information. Now, if you have any ideas, if you have any thoughts and theories, I would love to hear. I have no idea and no clue. Now, the last two things here is that, you know, Bert and Irving is talking to somebody. I don't think it's Regabi. I actually think it's Miss Cobell, and they're working together, since we are starting to understand that maybe she's working against LUMON. She has some kind of ulterior motives. And, you know, he's going to talk to Bert the next episode. Probably we're going to learn something new about them. We also realized that Bert was fired, even though it was presented to us and both to Irving that he was choosing to retire. So yeah, once again, LUMON lies. Hopefully LUMON dies at some point. And of course, Riken and Devon fighting because Riken is a sellout. And once again, he is going completely against all of his rules and all of his beliefs. And as I told you, this character is supposed to be something more than he is right now. Ben Stiller actually let something slip in the podcast. He said that they have some plans for these characters. He is something in this whole lore. He's not just there to be the cookie writer and the husband for Devon. He has some kind of an important role, and they're actually holding it for us. So maybe hopefully we're gonna see some more interesting revelations regarding Riken and this season. So let me know, what did you think about episode 5? It was a little bit of a slowdown. It was way calmer than the previous episodes. Some of the moments were disappointing for me, but as usual, I'm all in. I want to know all of the details. I still have trust in the creators. Hopefully it's not going to be like with From, you know, when everybody in the internet is theorizing about the man in yellow and how he's connected to the king in yellow and how he's connected to H.P. Lovecraft, and the creator is basically like, there was some dude in yellow suit that I have seen when I was going to work, so I decided to put him on the TV show. I hope it's not going to be the same in Severance, or at least it's not going to be too much of it, maybe 5-10%, and everything else is going to be connected and it's going to make us feel the same catharsis that Mark felt when he saw Haley R, only better. So thank you so much for watching. Feel free to support this channel in any shape or form. You can support me on Patreon, on YouTube if it feels comfortable to you. If not, like, subscribe, comment, also fine. And if not, just by watching until this moment, you already gave me everything I could ever ask you for. So hopefully I'm gonna see you on the next one. Meanwhile, bye!